Hey folks, welcome back to the Sedgwick Jimmy channel. We're certainly glad to see you, and today we're looking at another of history's worst cruises, the final voyage of the whaling ship Essex. What happened after, and why does this story sound familiar? Well, that's what we're here to talk about, so let's just get into it. The Essex was originally launched in 1799 and was typically quite profitable, earning her a reputation as a lucky ship. She launched out of Nantucket for her final voyage on August 12, 1819 under the leadership of George Pollard Jr. and was expected to be out to sea for nearly 2.5 years as she made her way around Cape Horn and into the Pacific Ocean. She ran into problems just a few days in, nearly sinking in the Gulf Stream, but she continued on, though damaged, because everybody wanted that sweet, sweet whale oil. And scrimshaw, I suppose. When they arrived along the western coast of South America, they found the normally fruitful whaling waters to be rather disappointing. They were told by another whaler that a new hunting ground that was ripe for the taking had been found, but it was also 2,500 miles southwest into the open ocean. Now, the Essex wasn't the largest ship on the seas and was considered small for a whaler, and she still had damage from the storm back in the Gulf Stream, but they began the long journey anyway. Scrimshaw. They stopped off at the Galapagos for repairs and to resupply their food rations. They did this by capturing about 300 giant tortoises, capturing another 60 or so on Charles Island, today known as Florena Island, before a crew member set a fire as a joke that, because of the dry season, ended up burning down most of the island. I'd say they were off to a banging start. They eventually arrived at the promised whale-rich area, but failed to spot any whales for several days. When they did spy one, a whale boat was sent after it, only for the whale to surface directly under the boat and completely destroy it. When they spied a large group of whales, 3 boats were launched, one becoming damaged and returning to the ship, the other 2 harpooning whales and being dragged behind until the whale was exhausted, known lovingly as the Nantucket Sleigh Ride. It was during this time, as the 3rd whale boat was being repaired, that a large whale was spotted acting strangely. It approached the Essex and, after ramming her twice, effectively took out the ship as it began to sink. The other whale boats returned, and the 20 men were split among the 3 boats, creating makeshift sails and gunwales as they were left stranded in the open ocean about 1,200 miles from the nearest known island. Low on provisions and fearful of possible cannibals, the crew wanted to sail for the South American coast, a trip twice as long as the captain wanted to the nearest island, but he was overruled and they set out for the westerlies, or the western trade winds that would take them to the coast. They brought several of the tortoises with them, though they began to run low on food and water, drinking their own urine rather than the harmful salt water. The boats were not made for long trips in open water, and thusly they took on water pretty much constantly, with men having to take shifts dumping out water. One of the boats lost timber, and the men had to all lean on one side to allow another boat to nail new boards over the hole. After a month at sea, they came across land, the uninhabited Henderson Island, part of the Pitcairn Islands, though they believed they were on a different island over 200 miles away. Fun fact, had they landed about 100 miles to the southwest, they could have received help from the descendants of the mutineers of the HMS Bounty. Oh, and don't worry, we'll get to the Bounty in another video. The crew found fresh water and an assortment of food on the island, but they ran through most of the island's resources rather quickly. It was decided that they would make it back to the ocean and continue their journey, but 3 men chose to stay behind, and they were rescued within a year. The remaining 17 split between the 3 whale boats and headed off, hoping for Easter Island, though they drifted too far off course. A few days in and they began to run out of food once again. A few weeks in and the first man died. One of the boats became separated during the storm, carrying 4 men away. One of the men died not long after and he was buried at sea. A few weeks later, another died and was eaten by the 2 survivors. The other 2 boats carried on, though they also ran out of food and resorted to eating the crew members as they died. The 2 boats became separated and nobody knows what happened to the 3 men on the other boat. The remaining boat under the captain's command held 8 men. though 4 died within a week. Once these bodies had been consumed, it was decided that they would draw lots to determine who would be eaten next. The captain's 17-year-old cousin lost and was killed, then eaten. The boat was found with 2 survivors, including the captain, after 93 days at sea. The other boat was picked up 4 days earlier with 3 survivors on board. Of the 17 that left Henderson Island, 5 were rescued and 7 were eaten. Captain Pollard would go on to be on 2 more ships that also sank, branding him as unlucky and forcing his retirement. Owen Chase, the first mate, wrote an account of his ordeal which caught the attention of a writer named Herman Melville. Yeah, that's right, he got the idea for Moby Dick from the Essex. And he loosely based Captain Ahab off of Captain Pollard. The rest of the survivors eventually died, of course, over time, some in naval wrecks, others of natural causes, though they were plagued by nightmares and one ended up institutionalized, hoarding food being one of his many issues. And that's just gonna about do it for our look at the real-life Moby Dick, the final voyage of the Essex. And if you liked it, why don't you give us a like? If you want to see more, give us a subscribe. And if you have anything to add, let us know down in the comments. We thank you for being here with us and hope you'll come back here for more Sedgwick Jimmy in the future. Come check it out.